We're working with Numan.com to bring you guys some special programming around men's health and wellness. I'm here with DJ Ron and Luke Howard. Can I just call you Luke?
You can call me Luke.
Luke Howard does sound like a real, like, pristine
proper name, yeah.
It does sound really, really good. All right, and obviously we are talking about alcohol in partnership with Numan today. Luke, you actually work in counselling.
I do. I work
alcohol,
for a drugs and alcohol service. It's the only LGBT drug and alcohol service in the country, and I've been working there for 7 years. And I'm like a drugs counsellor or a key worker, and we do drop-ins, and I attend the drop-in, and I work one-to-one with people.
So tell us just a bit about it. Like, I know you've been doing it for 7 years. But
I had a friend that was working there as a volunteer, and I was always moaning about people who took too many drugs or drank too much. I've been a DJ for 30 years, so I've been in that world a lot. And I'd kind of stopped doing everything pretty much. I mean, I do have a drink, but I don't really like getting drunk anymore, so I don't have a problem with anything. And my friend just said, why don't you do something about it instead of moaning about it all the time? So I applied to be a volunteer. I didn't know anything about working with people that have got issues with drugs and alcohol. And I sort of was trained on the job, and now I've been there for 7 years, and I do one-to-one work, and I also just support clients that come in through the door. It's just a drop-in, so they don't need an appointment, but work with all different types of people who maybe have a really serious issue with alcohol or drugs, or just want to cut down, or feel that they've got a bit of a problematic usage. So we're not an abstinence-based service.
And Ron, just tell me a bit about your relationship with alcohol. Like,
I still have a drink. I like a glass of good red wine at dinner. And if I'm out on a club night, I stick to 2 vodka and tonics, 2 squeezes of lime in each. That's it. That's enough for me.
So what was it like before? So if that's what you're like, kind of like now, what was it like before?
It was like, where's the party at? You know.
Yeah, same. I was like that.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, it's like, where's the party?
I used to drink to get drunk.
It was a case where I wouldn't have a consideration about what's to happen later, tomorrow, etc., etc. It was like about the party. It was about my friends, everything that was happening in the moment, you know. So and I just drank in that way. Do you want a drink, mate? Yeah, sweet. Do you want a drink, mate? Yeah, I've already got one. Let's have another one. Yeah, and it was that sort of like almost like binge culture. And I wasn't a teenager. I was still like in my 30s, going into my 40s still, and I was still doing the same thing. So came to a point I was like,
How come? What kind of change?
Oh, what kind of change? Just reflection, really. Just reflection on, like sitting down one time. I don't really get hungover, but, like sitting down in the aftermath of it. You know, there's always an aftermath of a night out sometimes, you know what I mean? And you sat down and, you know what, I messed up there, man. I'm not going to do that again. Then you do the same thing again. Then there's that, and there's that. And then eventually it gets to a point where the gap between you doing it gets wider, and you end up going, somebody offers you a drink, you're like, I'm all right, thanks, man.
So, working in like the music industry and all the stuff we do, obviously, I know you guys have been doing it for many years. Sometimes people kind of they drink for a bit of Dutch courage. You guys believe in Dutch courage? Is that something maybe?
I wouldn't necessarily drink for it, but
do you know people that do kind of? No.
Yeah, I think I know people that they won't start their set without having their bottle next to them.
I mean, I think that DJing or nightclubs in general, it's one of the few jobs where it's okay to drink at work. And most jobs, it's not okay to drink at work. And I always think if you need a drink to do your set or to get on the mic or to host the party or whatever it is you do or to be the promoter, if you need a drink to do that, then maybe you need to find a way of being able to do it without a drink.
Oh,
I'm not saying never drink, but definitely try and do your job without a drink as well, because most jobs it's not acceptable to be drunk or to be drinking at work. So just try and challenge yourself and don't drink at all when you DJ or when you do whatever it is you're doing in the club. By all means, have a drink when you want to have a drink, but like you've got to be able to do alcohol free as well.
No, I hear that, because I like myself, before I do any work, I do like a lot of radio presenting or like live presenting and stuff. I can't drink or eat before I do anything, but I think that's just more like a nerves thing. However, I know some other people that I kind of work with, they will take a shot just to get the edge off.
As a challenge, it would be something in considering what Luke's saying, but I definitely feel more comfortable if I've recently I went to play somewhere and there was like some confusion at the beginning, and I was unsettled as I was about to go on, and I started and I was still unsettled. I mean, I've been doing this for 35 years, for a long time, you know, and so I shouldn't feel like that. And yeah, I was unsettled. And somebody, a friend of mine, without me knowing, he just poured a shot of brandy, and I didn't knock it all back, but I had some of it, and just the sipping of it just calmed me down. And then I was just like, it's just like water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
Right.
It's weird. It was weird. So listening to you saying that, I would do that as a challenge, but without a shadow of a doubt, it's like an
ritual?
elixir. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once I've had that, do you know what I mean? I'm in the zone now. I could do it with my eyes closed. You know, but otherwise I'm too conscious of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Who's looking? What am I going to play next?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? It's like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. I do
It's
hear
like
you.
it's like a ritual, I guess, and it helps just take the edge off. Or the
Yeah,
angst.
absolutely,
If you're feeling a little bit anxious, it takes the edge off. But I think that's okay as long as you're not getting plastered, you know, to deal with those feelings.
Yeah.
If it's just one sip, that's all it takes.
Yeah, of course.
Then I don't think there's a problem with that. But I think also good to do it without alcohol occasionally, just
just
so
to test.
just to
Yeah.
know
I
that
mean,
you can.
more recently it's been without alcohol.
Yeah.
It's been more recently. It's been, and that's probably because for a while where I haven't DJed for a period of abstinence from DJing, and then coming back, I'm like, you know what? I just need to just do this as Ron rather than as Super Ron.
Super Ron.
Super Ron.
I love that.
I mean?
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah, but it's interesting that you say that. Like, sometimes did you feel, well, do you feel like you have to drink before you kind of get to set? Just because everybody's there, you want to give them like a good set? Is there like that?
No, I definitely don't have to. No, it's not like...
It's just a little, like you said, a little elixir just to kind of get things rolling.
I mean, you got to consider it like... I'm happy to say I'm in my 50s now. Right, so you imagine I'm in my 50s. I've been DJing since I was a teenager.
Jeez.
So I came up as a teenager DJing with like every set I'd go to, I'd have like 10 of my friends with me. So me DJing was our night out. So we'd go out, we'd get drunk, I'd be on the set. We'd get drunk, we'd get smashed, we'd on the set. And I did that for like decades.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm doing that for decades. So you can imagine it's a part of me now. So in answer to your question, do I need to do it? Now, no, I don't need to do it. But at the time, it was just a part of it. It wasn't like a conscious decision, I'm going to do it for my DJing. Yeah. It was part of the process. I'd already got to the club and somebody had already bought a drink and and my set's in an hour or something like that. And then the next thing you know, by the time I'm in the zone. Right. And whatever that zone was, I still had a career out of it, so it couldn't have been that bad.
What about you, Luke? Obviously, I know you don't drink as much now, especially when you're working or DJing. What about earlier on?
I used to drink.
I know you said you used to drink. Was there any share a story with me, maybe where you got really, because you know sometimes you do hear about DJs getting so intoxicated that they can't really do their set. I'm sure you got a story.
I never used to get that drunk, but occasionally, you know, you go over the tipping point, don't you? You know, because normally it would just be a few drinks, like you say, because you're just having a good time. Yeah. You're with your mates and you've got a rider or you've got some drinks tickets, and so it's flowing and people are buying you drinks and you feel good. It's nice. And occasionally I have gone over the tipping point. And one time when I was in Croatia, we had to do a boat party and then we had to do a set on dry land, and the boat party was in the afternoon. And those boat parties in Croatia, anyone that's ever been, are, you know, everyone is drinking and having fun. They're all on holiday, and we must have had like a decent rider, and I don't know, I was just like feeling it, and it was sunny, and got really drunk on the boat. And then we had to carry on. We had about a 3 or 4 hour gap, and then we had to do another set. And by the time, and we just carried on. And by the time we were doing the set, what I would say was blind drunk. I mean, I can remember it, but at one point I found myself leaning on where the decks were just to kind of hold myself up because I was feeling so wobbly. I mean, it went well, and it was that kind of vibe. Everyone was sort of like that, but I didn't feel great the next day when I had to get on a plane early in the morning. And I think those are the things for me made me think, I can't do this, you know, I can't do this regularly, because as I've got older, it takes longer to recover, and flying and traveling and all the rest of it, and having to get up after not much sleep. It just wasn't really fun anymore. Now I don't really like being drunk at all. When I drink, as soon as I start to feel drunk, I stop. Luckily
wears
I've got
you
this
down.
switch off thing where I'm just like, okay, I don't want to feel out of control. I don't want to end up feeling like I'm going to make a fool of myself, or I'm going to say something or do something stupid, or I want to be in control, and I want to know if I've done a bad mix. I want to be present to everything. I don't want to just be like, oh, I don't care about anything, you know.
Okay.
I agree.
What about you, Ron? Hit me with maybe like anything crazy you might have seen in the,
Do you know what? I'll tell you this
or
story.
something happened to you.
I found out this story the other. I mean, there you have it. I found out this story the other day.
So someone had to tell it to you then. That's when someone had to tell it to you.
Yeah, and it must be a true story. This guy wouldn't have made it up, right? So there's an artist, Rebel MC he was called at the time. He's now called Conga Natty, yeah. And I used to be his tour DJ when he was a pop star, right? So we were in. He told me this story. He told me it like literally about a month ago. I completely forgot. He said to me, we were in Holland. We had done a gig, and we were all at this gig, and you know, the party was going up and down all over. We finished the rave, but we're in there partying still, and they were leaving to go back to the hotel, and he said, we can't leave without Ron. Where's Ron? And
where was Ron?
Right, so they're looking all over the venue for Ron, and he said he burst into this room, yeah. And I was so all these guys sitting around, yeah, in the room, like a green room, yeah. Right. And I'm in the middle of the green room with my top off, yeah? And I'm like being like quite aggressive. Like I was into my football and hooliganism at the same time. And I'm like, I said, I just could not remember that.
But you had your top off, ready to roll.
Just like sort of like
get a bit rowdy.
Telling a story. I might have been telling a story, but I'm being animated.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And so don't do that.
But you don't, do you feel like it makes you like a better or worse DJ?
God knows what I did as a DJ that night, but yeah, I mean, like Luke says, you know what I mean, nowadays it's more about, I get to a point where I can tell you said that quite loudly, you know, like it might be something like that, and you're like, okay, looks like this is that time for me to just slide out. Maybe not even say goodbye, just sort of like, because everybody's kind of like, the party might be going that way anyway, and I just sort of like, see you later, guys.
That's so sensible. I just feel the thing. It's not like I'm young, but I still feel like sometimes I do just get. I had my 30th birthday last November, and even then, that day, I remember I just said to myself, you know, if somebody gives me a drink, I'll back it. You know what I mean? I can hack it. And I had so much white rum, and then at the end, I kind of ruined the night. I ruined my cake.
I did the same on my 30th, actually. So don't. I think that's kind of right. It's a rite of passage, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Do you guys feel like in UK there's like a binge drinking problem?
I would say probably, because I think often when you see statistics about Europe, the UK is like the number one in recreational drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, teenage pregnancy. I don't know. So I think maybe we do have a bit of an issue. I think there's definitely a culture of going out on the weekend and getting on it, isn't there? Mm-hmm. And you know, so I think probably there is. But then I also read statistics that millennials, whoever they are, I think they're young people, they are drinking less than perhaps people the generation above them. So I'm not sure whether that is true these days.
On Sundays I do a show, but I have to travel to Manchester to do it. So what it is, I have to get a very early train to ensure I'm on time. And because I get like the first train into London on a Sunday, I always see the mess of people from the Saturday night trying to get that first train probably back home. And I'm always like, man, this is actually
bad.
And it's quite a lot sometimes. Like I'm like, all right, I'm not going to lie, this is actually quite mad. Like, but you guys kind of travel around the world for work sometimes. Do you guys say like there's some cultural differences maybe in other parts of Europe or in other parts where drinking wise, or no? I know you guys do parties obviously, but I'm talking about outside. Just
sort of observationally, when I see people in the UK, they seem to get more messy than in other places. Like
I agree.
When you're in the rest of Europe, people might be messy, but somehow they keep it together a bit more. Like people in the UK just seem to let it all hang out and just they look like a mess. But you know, they look like they're having a good time. But often you go somewhere and people kind of keep their sort of they keep themselves together a bit more.
And in to follow on from there, it's like you know, we are only, well, certainly I speak for myself. Often I'm only in the country for a very short time. So like I get on a plane, I land, do the gig, I see what's going on in the gig and just outside it, back to the hotel, maybe a day off, and then I go.
Right.
So I don't really get to see
To soak up the country.
to soak it up, to see whether that is actually going on. But like Luke says, to me it seems a lot more controlled and people sort of like respecting themselves
because
a bit more.
you guys are never on a plane and see like a Spanish stag, do you? You always kind of on a plane. You always see like the British stag of everybody going a bit mad,
Yeah.
but you'll never see like a Spanish or like a French stag like going crazy
Yeah.
on a plane. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
One thing that I have noticed is that in places like Italy or I'm just trying to think of other countries, Berlin, for instance, people start dancing straight away, so they don't need to be drunk to get on the dance floor. Whereas sometimes in the UK, dance floor can be quite quiet until people reach that tipping point of feeling a bit tipsy, and then they're all on the dance floor. Whereas been to Italy, as soon as the doors open, people just come in, the dance floor's full, they start dancing straight away.
Yeah.
Unless
Interesting.
Unless they preloaded at home, I don't know. But
We're waiting for the doors to open.
I definitely agree with that. Do you guys feel like, you know, certain binge drinking or stags or anything crazy like that, do you feel like that's something that you can grow out of?
I think there's a culture around it, so I think there's a lot of pressure on people to participate and to be that kind of person, that fun person, that nutty person that's going to like take everything to the extreme, especially if you do it on a stag do, because that's like an event where people are expected to drink a lot and to make, you know, get messy, as it were. But I think people, you can grow out of it, or you can end up like not growing out of it. Maybe that's when you need to think about whether you need to make some changes.
What do you reckon, Ron?
You definitely can grow out of it. I know loads of people have grown out of it, and but conversely, I've known a lot of people that unfortunately didn't grow out of it, and the places where they are right now, you know, like they're challenged because in fact it seems as though because this has happened in their latter years, it's sort of like ingrained in them. So it's like hard for them to take the steps to what it would take to remove this from them. So do you get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're younger, you know, like you could take a lot more advice. When you get older, you seem to think you know it all.
Of course.
And so
Also, when you're younger, you might be drunk, and it might be, oh, you're fun, or you're a good laugh, or you're cute, or whatever. You're funny when you're drunk. When you're in your 40s or 50s, it might be like, you're scary when you're drunk. You're not fun. You're, you know.
It's like the person turns up and everybody leaves.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
So
like, my man's
very
here,
interested,
you know?
yeah.
So that's kind of
he's
one
drunk
of the
again,
differences.
My man's here.
Yeah.
He might not even be drunk yet, but just because they remembered it from before, it's
Okay.
like, my man's here, you know?
I know you touched on it just very briefly a bit earlier on, but I do feel like alcohol starts to affect you differently when you get a bit older as well.
Definitely.
Or like I said, you wake up the next day like, I'm not gonna lie, normally I would have recovered from that. Do you know what I mean? Or you could do it on the. I've noticed that because some of my friends are getting married now, so I still go on a couple stag holidays. I was even in Morocco a couple of weeks ago, and before we could go out like night after night after night, whereas now I can do like a night, and then after that I'm a bit tired. Do you know what I mean? So I do feel like sometimes if you are a bit more health conscious, you do feel like, you know what, let me just spread this out over the weekend or something. How do you know? Let me ask you this, Luke.
Okay.
How would I know?
Okay.
I know you mentioned the units a bit, but you said, how would I know in terms of, you know what, maybe I'm drinking a bit too much.
Okay.
How would I kind of start to check myself?
I would ask yourself, or whoever this imaginary person is, I would ask them to ask some questions, and it would be things like, in the past year, have you injured yourself as a result of your drinking? Have you woken up the next day full of regret and remorse as a result of your drinking? Have you missed a day from work or been late for work as a result of your drinking? Have you spent more money than you'd meant to as a result of your drinking? Has your drinking led to other like dysfunctional type of behavior, like gambling or other things? Like, have you started using recreational drugs as a result? You know, is alcohol a gateway into other behaviors that you feel are damaging to you? So if you can answer any of those questions with a yes, and I would usually do it within the past year, say. And then if there's a lot of yeses to those questions, then maybe think, okay, maybe my alcohol intake is affecting my behaviour, and maybe I need to limit how much I drink, or cut down how much I drink, or just take care in certain situations, especially if there's situations where there's free alcohol around, because I think that can always be a problem. If it's just being offered to you constantly, then that's perhaps. And also just think about your health. Is it making you feel really bad the next day? Is it taking a long time to get over over a hangover, for instance.
But how do I address that? So once I've asked myself all these questions, and obviously I'm not gonna. Hopefully, I don't answer all of them. Yes, 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 and yes.
Yeah.
But like how do I kind of address if I do kind of feel like, what, maybe I do need something.
A really good idea to start with is to keep an alcohol diary for a week, so you can just really make a note of how much you are drinking, and then you can think about, when you see it on paper, it helps you a lot to know what to set a goal about what you'd like to do. So if you've written down everything you've drank in a week, and actually there hasn't been a single day where you haven't had a drink, then maybe the first goal you can set is to have a day off without any alcohol. Even if you're not drinking and getting drunk every single day, but just make sure there's a couple of days in the week with no alcohol. That would be the first thing I would say after you've done a diary for a week or two. Next, if you want to set a goal, think about how much. Okay, on the weekend, I see that I'm drinking like 2 bottles of wine or 8 pints of beer or, half a bottle of rum. That feels like it's too much because that's already going over my weekly limit. So I want to cut down what I drink on the weekend. So then I would ask a client, if I'm working with a client, to set a goal about how much they think they can manage to drink on that weekend. Say it's Friday and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they said, okay, let's have 3 drinks, that could be 3 vodka tonics, 3 pints, 3 glasses of wine. How are they going to achieve that? I would give them a few tips to try and help them achieve that goal. So it might be things like have a non-alcoholic drink in between each drink.
Oh, okay, that's good.
When you go out, make sure that you're not thirsty. Make sure that if you've come straight from work or playing sport, you might be a bit dehydrated. So have a soft drink, have plenty of water to rehydrate before you start drinking. Because if you arrive at the pub and you are dehydrated, you're going to neck 2 pints before you've even known it because you're thirsty, especially in the summer when it's hot and a cold beer is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
So just make sure that you have a cold glass of water before you start drinking so that you're actually rehydrated and you're not drinking just to try and hydrate yourself. Other tips I would say, if you're out with a group of people, don't get involved in buying rounds, because if there's 6 of you, that'll be 6 drinks if everyone buys a round. Hopefully they do and your friends aren't all tight. But do you know what I mean? So then if you've set a goal for 3 drinks, then say, all right, guys, I'm not going to get involved in rounds because I'm only drinking 3 drinks tonight. So or if you are doing rounds, just make sure that you order a soft drink, for 3 of those drinks if there's 6 of you. Same goes for shots. If people start, let's have a shot, and there can be a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
If you refuse a shot, it can be very difficult.
Yeah.
A tip that I would give to clients is to say, well, get the barman, squeeze some lime in a shot glass, and when they're all doing their shot, you can join in the shot. You can even make that face after you've drank it.
Yeah.
If you drink a shot of lime juice, it's like, ugh. So you're joining in with the shot kind of ritual, but you're not actually having any more alcohol. So just things like that. But also be clear, if you're out with your mates, be clear about what you want and why you're doing it. Say, look, I'm trying to just cut down a little bit at the moment, so I only want to have 3 drinks. When everyone starts getting drunk and you're not, or when you start to get drunk and you feel like, this could turn now and I could forget this goal that I've set, maybe it's time to go home and have an early night.
Yeah.
Because the easiest way to not drink is to not
be there.
Not to be in those sorts of environments and those situations.
Yeah.
Like, Ron, hearing that,
Yeah.
now, so you don't actually have any friends with any like drinking problems or anything like that, do you? Because I'm sure it must be hard if you're a DJ. I know you guys both DJ, and I know obviously you guys are obviously very much in control of your own environment. But I'm surely like, if you are a DJ and you are in these environments all the time, you wouldn't, there must be some sort of correlation between like the music industry or being a DJ and drinking, and it must almost feel normal.
It's definitely normalised. Yeah, we were talking as we were talking about before. It's the only job really where it's okay to have a drink.
To be
in your
drinking
hand when you're
all
doing
the time, like you said,
and then,
a man will have an MC holding the bottle.
And then there's the social aspect of it. So you then go, I'm gonna have a meeting with you, unless it's gonna be a coffee shop. If I'm going to have some lunch with you, somebody's like, I'll have a lunch. And I say, what time is it? I'll have just a small white wine. And then I said, do you think we should just get a carafe? Yeah, all right, then we'll get a carafe. Yeah. So now you've had that. Now that might be just that one meeting, that one day. Like now, invariably, the weekends start on a Thursday. So you have some meetings during the week. Then you've got the Thursday night. Now it's Friday, Saturday. You're in a loop.
Yes.
You're in a loop of a never-ending cycle of sort of like environments where you could drink, unless you're aware of it, that you're like, no, I'm all right, thank you.
So Luke, where is that line then? Saying that, where is that line between drinking too much and becoming an alcoholic?
Well, I can't like I said, everybody's different, and until you keep an alcohol diary, then that's the way to figure out whether or not an individual is drinking maybe too much. Because if you're drinking more than 14 units a week regularly, or more than 14 units in one session, then that is too much. It's not good for your health, for your body. But actually having a physical addiction to alcohol, which alcohol, you can become addicted to alcohol physically. You can get dependency, whereby if you don't drink, you start to feel very ill. You need a drink as soon as you wake up in the morning. You would know that if you had a dependency on alcohol, because you would know that you start to feel very, very, very ill if you don't have a drink.
Wow.
And one drink will make you feel better. And anyone that maybe thinks that they have got a dependency on alcohol, the first thing I would advise them to do is go see their GP, because it's not something that you can just do by yourself. You've got to be very careful about slowing down, about cutting down the alcohol quite slowly. Not, if you just
Can't
stop,
just stop.
if you stop, you're going to feel very, very ill, and it's going to be it's going to be hard. But if you go to your GP, every local authority in the country has a drugs and alcohol service connected with that area, and they will tell you that's the place I would get help from if anyone is out there and they think that they might have a physical dependency on alcohol. Most people don't have a physical dependency, but they're what we might call a situational alcoholic. So there's certain situations where they need to have a drink, or something will trigger them, and they will need to get drunk as a result of those feelings or that situation that they're in. So they might use alcohol in a way that might not be healthy, because they might drink to get drunk in certain situations, and that might be a DJ, or that might be people that just go out after work for drinks and end up staying way too long, and rolling home at 2 a.m. when they meant to go home at like 9 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're doing that regularly and it's affecting their life, then, as we talked about before, then it might be time to think about how can I cut down, or what effect is alcohol having on my life. Our culture, alcohol's everywhere. It's social, it's celebratory. When we're if we're commiserating someone, we'll have a drink.
Yeah.
You drink at a funeral, you drink at a wedding, you go out after work, you drink. So it is a big part of our culture. So it's very easy to kind of be in a very boozy environment, and until you kind of stop and think about how much you're drinking, it's hard to know what to do, whether or not you do have a problem. But each person is different.
What about like hangovers? Do the hangovers get worse? What about you, Ron? You actually said before you don't really get hangovers.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Did you used to before?
I mean, it'd be interesting to know what the definition of a hangover is, because I can function, but I'm cloudy, So now, for some time actually, I say not that long, but it's been at least 5-6 years. I always have a box of Alka-Seltzer. Somebody introduced me to that, reintroduced me to Alka-Seltzer. Do you know what that is?
No, I thought it was What is it?
Right, it's a very, very old remedy for
hangovers.
For hangovers, yeah.
What
It's
is
not
it?
for that. It's not meant for that. It's meant for something else. But if you take 2 Alka-Seltzer tablets, drop them in water.
What is Alka-Seltzer? Is it like a headache sort of thing?
Alka-Seltzer, it's like I think it's like for upset stomach. It's for headaches. It's for a number of different things. Yeah.
Because I feel like someone's told me about this before. They said, Jermaine, if you're gonna get drunk, drink some Diarrhea before something like that, or is that not the same thing?
I've heard of that. It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing. But Alka-Seltzer has sort of like qualities around it similar to that.
To like a stomach.
Yeah. But if I have 2 tabs of Alka-Seltzer in the morning,
Right.
no matter where I've been the night before, it doesn't matter, even if I haven't slept the night before, 2 tabs of Alka-Seltzer and in a glass of water, I am completely back to normal.
It's good to go. Luke, what's the thing? Luke's got the most.
I'm going to try that.
Luke's like,
I'm going to try that.
Let me tell you something, a caterer told me about that, and I was like, Alka-Seltzer? And now, when there's 2 left, I make sure I don't always use them, they last for ages, but I always have them in the house.
You were talking about diarrhea, but that is because that will help you to rehydrate. Because
Okay.
after when you're hungover, basically you're just really, really dehydrated. So that will help your body to rehydrate.
Get the toxins.